Are you ready for the Low Blows Network? Hi guys, Rick here. Before we get to this episode of Paddy's New Yacht, I'd like to talk briefly about gambling because it'll be discussed a lot on this show. Gambling is supposed to be fun and accoutrement to your sporting weekend. However, it can also be debilitating and ruin lives. If you find that your gambling gets in the way of work, school or other activities, causes mental or physical health issues, causes any issues in your life, gives you financial stress of any kind or damages your reputation, then gambling may be a danger to you. If you spot any of these signs in yourself, stop gambling immediately, consult problemgambling.ie for all resources that can assist you, and help yourself before it's too late. And now, on to Paddy's New Yacht.
Former pro wrestler Rick Nash and former Paddy Power insider David Kent are not good gamblers. They're sports fanatics who are determined to crack the code and make it rich on sports gambling or die trying.
This time next year, we'll be millionaires.
Follow them on their journey to eventual bankruptcy every Friday on the Low Blows Network with sports tips that made so much sense at the time in Paddy's New Yacht.
Leeds last weekend cost themselves a chance at automatic promotion, which would have been unlikely to be fair, but at the same time lost the chance at automatic promotion when they allowed Aston Villa to score an equaliser after they were absolute scenes during their match on Sunday. When Leeds continued to play despite a Villa player being down injured and Villa stopping play for that exact reason. Marcelo Bielsa insisted that his team let them score to equalise, and that allowed Sheffield United to go up. We will discuss that incident in particular still to come here on Paddy's New Yacht. But as we get kicked off for another week, Rick Nash and the Buzz.E's and the Daily Star's David Kent joining you as always. Dave, can you think of any other costly acts of sportsmanship?
Going to go back a long time, as some people might know, I'm a sports historian. The 1936 Olympics held in Berlin were controversial enough for the obvious reason. But the triple jump event saw American Jesse Owens, who people may have heard of for something I'll get to in a minute or two, and German Lutz Long on his home turf go head-to-head in the qualifying round. Lutz had set the mark after his first three jumps, a European record. Owens had fouled his first two. So to get qualified for the semi-finals and then the final, he had to surpass a minimum of 7.15 metres. It's about 23 feet. So for context for wrestling fans, 3 and a bit under the Giants. That's how far he had to jump to qualify. Owens was sat in the lane, head and hands, dejected after his first two. Long went over to him and told him to jump 2 steps earlier, just to change his little run so he was able to jump on the last one a couple of steps earlier. Having seen Owens jump further than 7.15 multiple times over subsequent meetings, or previous meetings I should say, Owens adjusted, absolutely soared through and goes on to win, with Long finishing second for silver. So, Long didn't have to do that. He could have gone and said, right, this is my chance at Olympic gold. If Jesse Owens isn't there, I'm definitely going to win it. But he didn't. He went over to him. He went, right, just a little bit, change it up a little bit, and eventually cost himself gold. Unfortunately, he died a couple of years later as part of the German army in World War II. And the common myth surrounding Owens is that Hitler didn't shake his hand at the medal ceremony. When in actual fact Hitler did shake his hand, he actually was quite pleasant to him, Owens said. But the U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt didn't, which is a weird quirk. I mean, that's the racism around America at the time. Owens was best man at Long's son's wedding, so it all ended up in a nice little bundle. They remained friends for years, but. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'd cost myself the chance at an Olympic gold medal. Yeah, if I had the opportunity.
It's an and look, it turns out as well, Hitler, not a bad guy after all.
Not a bad guy.
I think that's the lesson we can take from all of this. It is a lovely story, but then you do look at the pictures of it happening, and you see Lutz in the background doing the Heil Hitler sign. Not a great look.
Yeah,
not a great look.
That's less as good.
Hasn't aged well. Like it is a heartwarming story from a certain angle, and also died at war as a Nazi. So there's that. But
I'm just gonna slip in that Lutz Long, blue-eyed, blonde hair.
As Nazis go though. one of the better ones. You know what I mean? So, underrated Nazi. There you go. Lutz Long. The story I want to talk about is the exact same setup as Leeds Villa. Except imagine that Marcelo Bielsa lost his job afterwards. It's kind of sick. Sadly, that's what happened to Shota Arveladze in 2015, who many may remember from his playing days with Rangers, of course. He was also with Ajax as well. He was managing Turkish side Kazimpaşa, and they scored a goal while an opposing player was down injured. Exact same setup as Leeds and Villa last week. Arveladze insisted on letting them equalise. This was still in the first half of the game. Arveladze insisted on letting them equalise. Unfortunately, this was quite costly because they went on to lose the game 2-1 during quite a bad run of form, and Arveladze had to resign immediately after the match. So he may have been on the way out anyway. So he's like, I'm going to go out and I'm going to look sound at the end of the day. But yeah, it's a tough look for all involved. Like, sometimes sportsmanship, I think what we're learning here as we get kicked off on Paddy's new yacht, not all Nazis were bad people. Sometimes sportsmanship is stupid as well. So sometimes you're better being a selfish prick. Sometimes you're better than what you seem if you're a Nazi. There we go. That's the lesson we want to pass on this week on Paddy's new yacht.
Questionable start to Paddy's new yacht.
Busy, it's near the end of the season. Busy week we have lined up. We're going to be previewing the GAA is back. The championship begins this weekend, so we're going to be previewing everything you need to know about the championship, also telling you what to keep an eye on this weekend. We're going to be going through the news. We're also going to be previewing the football. Busy weekend. It's the time of the year where football takes over, so we're going to be going through the Premier League. Could there be a dramatic twist in the title race as we look forward to it? And also we're going to be seeing if my colleague David Kent, who has completed a dramatic comeback, he is within 2 of me with 3 still to play on Kent for this season. Can he get one step closer to the finale? I've made the questions a bit harder, so we shall find all that out, but we're going to get kicked off, as we always do, with the news for the week, because what we do is we love all the sport here on Paddy's New Yacht, and we want to talk about everything that's going on, but we only have like an hour to do so a week. So what we do is we take the 5 biggest stories that we want to give our lightning hot takes on, put a minute on the clock for each of them in theory. We call it the 5 on 5, and it gets underway now, because after Spurs lost 1-0 at home to Ajax and Liverpool were humbled in the Nou Camp, despite English clubs making up half of the quarter-finals, it looks like the finals of the Champions League may have none. Is this a sign that the Premier League is still a step off the elite in Europe, or just bad luck?
I think in terms of the elite in Europe, we talked about it last year in the Champions League as well. Often the best sides in Europe don't win the actual Champions League. So I don't know if they're that far off the actual top brass. I didn't see any of the Barcelona-Liverpool game. I was playing a match myself at the time. All I could see on Twitter afterwards was, I've never seen so many stat bars screenshotted and posted into tweets by Liverpool fans. And, we had the performance, we had possession, we created more chances. Lads, you still lost 3-0.
Yeah.
That's what matters at the end of it. No one's going to look back in 10 years and go, you know what, 3-0 first, but by God, we had possession.
Yeah.
Spurs a little bit more unlucky, saw all that match. I think maybe with the timing of Harry Kane's injury, Son being suspended as well, they were kind of let down. Like, Llorente was never really going to have too much of an impact. Ajax, total football, always have been, got another win. So I don't know if Spurs are that far off. I don't know if Ajax are the elite either, but Steve McManaman as well for Liverpool saying, you can't foul Messi here, you can't kick him here. Well, yeah, that's the rule of football, anyway. Steve. You shouldn't kick anyway. So not as much sympathy for Liverpool. I don't write them off ahead of next week because it's just that kind of a mental ground in Champions League with Anfield as well. Obviously last year with the Roma game too, it's never really known when Liverpool. Spurs, I think, have a difficult task.
I do write Liverpool off next week, because you have to consider as well, like, they have to keep a clean sheet against Barca, and that is one thing they found impossible. Do you really think Messi won't be able to score next week, even if Liverpool win 4-1, Barcelona go through? So I just think it's a step too far. If it was 2-0, different story. We've seen that overturned already several times at this stage of the Champions League this season. Yeah, I think Liverpool are perhaps a step behind Barcelona. I think City may be on the same level, but they've been unfortunate this year and it just hasn't panned out for them, and they obviously have that jinx with the Champions League. I don't think we can read too much into this. It is unfortunate and kind of funny that there's 4 English sides in the quarterfinals, none in the final. It's like mathematically very unlikely, but it's happened. So here we are. I don't read too much into the results. I think Barcelona are better than Liverpool. Like you said, there's extenuating circumstances at play. I don't think, like, on balance, Ajax are a stronger side than Spurs, but they're having this miraculous run, and Spurs are coming up against an irresistible force. So I do think we're going to get a non-English final. I think Barcelona-Ajax is the best final. It's the final we all want to see. But I wouldn't worry too much about the strength of the Premier League as a whole, based on reflecting on it. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, the NFL draft took place this week and saw surprises and trades aplenty. With number 1 pick Kyler Murray heading to the Cardinals, moving last year's first rounder Josh Rosen to the Dolphins. But which franchise came out best in the draft? That was a weird pick for me, Kyler Murray.
Well, Kyler Murray is a great player. He's got that kind of Russell Wilson vibe of like the Patrick Mahomes as well, similar type player to do everything quarterback. So he's a great pick for the Cardinals. I don't dispute that as well. The Cardinals had like a rough season last year. It was supposed to be the beginning of the rebuild, but they're going, no, now is the beginning of the rebuild. They're rebuilding the rebuild. So I think it's a ballsy move as well, and I think they got decent return on Josh Rosen, even if they have to eat a bit of cap money. The reality is we don't know who's come out best in the NFL draft. You have to consider with the draft, Tom Brady was a late draft pick. A lot of what they judge in the combine, for example, like 50-meter sprints and whatnot, is like it's not what the players will be judged on the field. Like, a lot of it is down to Bottle and how they settle towards the league, how they're mentally prepared to play in the league, and a lot of that depends on the franchise that they're with and how their training camp goes and whatnot. So we can't tell who came out best in the draft, but as far as whether this was a good move for the Arizona Cardinals, yes, I think it was. Whether was this a good move for the Miami Dolphins, it may not prove disastrous. If you look, Josh Rosen had a bad season last year, but he was also playing for a bad franchise. The Miami Dolphins have a lot to like about theirs, and they're rebuilding as well. We've seen quarterbacks take a dramatic step up. Jared Goff, for example, Super Bowl quarterback this year. His first season, he looked absolutely dreadful. So we can't tell too much based on a rookie quarterback's first season if it's bad. I wouldn't be writing Josh Rosen off yet. I think both franchises could come out of this doing quite well. Yeah,
I agree. I mean, Murray is an upgrade on Rosen, even based off last year's performance. But again, it's a big step up from college to the NFL. Many people many Heisman Trophy winners as well have been taken before and then suddenly just haven't really found themselves able to compete with the level. I do like the move, I must say, to Rosen in the office, because even if he is a bit shaky at the start, they've got Ryan Fitzpatrick as a backup. Obviously not elite quarterback again, but like you think about the likes of Kenyon Drake's got some options out wide as well. Like Devontae Parker, Stills. Dolphins look solid again, and as I say, they're on the up. So yeah, it works for both sides. And I agree, maybe you can't probably tell who comes out best. I'm just going to say the Packers anyway, because we've a solid D-line now. So, come on, Packers for the Super Bowl.
We don't know, in truth, and if a lot of it is about just the fit at the franchise. You know what I mean? Jared Goff is a better quarterback because he has Todd Gurley there. So Todd Gurley opens up a lot of passing lanes. So Jared Goff looks better as a result. So a lot of it is the fit. Josh Rosen may end up being the big winner here if it all clicks for him in Miami. We just don't know. It's too early to tell. But it's also fun to analyse it, and it gives us an excuse to talk football in May. So I'm happy with that. Anyway, moving on. We spoke about it at the top of the show, but Leeds, late act of sportsmanship, led the way for Sheffield United to get automatically promoted in the Championship. Will that be a moment that Bielsa regrets in future years after most of the season, until these past few weeks, went so positively?
No, I don't think so, for 3 reasons. One, that wouldn't have happened if Bielsa believed Leeds could have got promoted automatically. Sheffield United were 6 points ahead of them going into Sunday with 2 games to go, and they needed a miracle anyway. If that game was anyway involved of Leeds, like, could they have taken over Sheffield United? I don't think Bielsa would have instructed his players to let Villa score. Secondly, Leeds were overachieving this season. Bielsa, like, the whole thing with Leeds before this year was, they sacked a manager by Christmas, get another one, sack him by February. So Bielsa lasted a full year. He's also got them into the top 3, which is beyond any Leeds fans' preseason expectations. And lastly, it means that there's a narrative now that everyone's against Leeds again, and that's where they do that's where they play their best, because no one likes us, we don't care. It's looking like a semi-final against Derby. It's looking like a final against Aston Villa. You just know that Bielsa will relish that narrative. He knows how to wind people up.
Yeah.
He's already wound everyone up with the spying thing, which started against Derby. Obviously, there is still a bit of a Derby still have to secure their place this weekend. It could still be Tony Pulis, which is interesting. But no, I don't think Bielsa will regret that one bit.
Okay, yeah, I could be a psychological masterstroke by Bielsa. Look, I've a good feeling about Leeds this year. We talk about these teams like, Leeds never do it in the playoffs, and this always happens in NFL. We get this the whole time. This team can't do it. They can't do it until they do. I've a good feeling about this. The playoffs are absolute box office and must watch for me as well. Like, so fantastic stuff. Yeah. I cannot wait. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah, to the NBA, and the conference semi-finals are nicely set up with 3 ties locked at 1-1, while the Warriors hold it for Houston. Are you still sticking with your pick of the Celtics, or are the Golden State starting to turn you?
I never picked the Celtics for the record. Like, I picked them as dark horses in the East. They could pull it together, and I still believe in that. You know, they came out and absolutely spanked the number 1 seed Milwaukee Bucks on Saturday before getting spanked themselves in the return match. Now it goes to Boston, and the series will really be tested there. I think the problem with this is, I was hoping that the Houston Rockets would be able to take out the Golden State Warriors. It looked like it would. Golden State had less of a rest. They were coming into the game 1 off 2 days' notice. James Harden just hasn't shown up. He was bleeding from the eyes the other night in the loss after taking an early hit from Draymond Green, but managed to finish out the game and get 29 points in the process. But sadly what happens so often is you get these overreactions, and I'm guilty of it myself. I predicted the Portland Trail Blazers, they could go on a run and reach the conference finals, and then they lost to the Denver Nuggets in game 1 before pulling one back in game 2. So finally poised is the way I'd put it. I've no idea what's going to happen again. You thought in game 1 Toronto Raptors beat the Philadelphia 76ers. You're like, right, the Raptors are who we thought they were. They're a better side, and then the Sixers came out and put in an amazing performance to tie that up as well. So we don't know which way this is going to go. I do like the Celtics. I think if there's a good chance they could win both games, and there's also a good chance we could get Giannis. The thing with game 2 of the Celtics Bucks was that Giannis finally started to play like the MVP form, which we haven't really seen that much of so far in the playoffs. If Giannis is probably the best player in the world today, at least this season. If he plays at his best in the NBA, the rule is the team with the best player usually wins. If he plays at his best, they're winning. If not, the Celtics are winning because Kyrie Irving is the best player apart from him. So it's an interesting one. I'd say that Golden State going 2-0 up against Houston. They are 11-1 this iteration of Golden State when they're winning 2-0 in a series. So that's ominous for Houston. I think that they have their number. I think Golden State are the firm favourites now to retain, and they're going for the 3-time champs. So to beat the man, you've got to beat the man, and I think that's the dynamic we have set up in the NBA. But it's interesting. It's all finely poised, all interesting, except for maybe the Golden State series, which may be coming to a premature climax, unfortunately. Last but not least, Ruby Walsh announced his immediate retirement, age 39, after winning the Punchestown Gold Cup this week. How do you sum up his contribution to horse racing?
I'll leave this to Tony McCoy, one of his greatest rivals over the last 15 years, and he says, the Lionel Messi of horse racing, you can teach someone to kick a ball, you can't turn them into Lionel Messi. You can teach someone to ride a horse, you'll never be able to turn them into Ruby Walsh. Like, 12-time Cheltenham Festival best jockey, 16-time National Hunt champion, like synonymous and so with Paul Nicholls, synonymous with Willie Mullins. There's the fact that 2 of the top trainers wanted Ruby Walsh on all their horses at every big ride. And the way to go out as well, win the Punchestown Gold Cup after another solid Cheltenham Festival. For me, he's the greatest. I wasn't around for the likes of Lester Piggott in the 80s, and obviously a couple before that, Caviano as well. As well for AP McCoy as well, like another fantastic jockey. They're both kind of up there in that conversation. It's like a Ronaldo Messi conversation for horse racing fans. For me, Ruby's just tops him, but that's made that's synonymous. He's synonymous with horse racing in the sense that you ask a non-horse racing fan or somebody who doesn't know about it, how many jockeys do you know? They're going to say AP McCoy, they're going to say Ruby Walsh, they won't know many more.
This is the full list of jockeys I know. I know Frankie Dettori, I know AP McCoy, and I know Ruby Walsh. I don't know anything about horse racing, but I know him, and that's a testament to it. But I couldn't tell you anything about it, so thank you for summing up on my behalf. Speaking of things I can't tell you much about, let's talk about GAA. Because the season gets underway. I'm only joking. I love a bit of GAA. It's going to keep me taking over for the summer. But the All-Ireland gets underway this weekend. The football starts this weekend. The hurling starts next weekend. Some tasty ties, and it is interestingly set up because last season, what did we learn? Dublin are the best. Yay. But it looks like that could fall apart. So we're going to get through the big questions that you need to focus on ahead of the season. And that's first off centres on Dublin's drive for 5. It's starting to look less certain as they suffered losses in the league to Monaghan, Tyrone and Kerry. Can we read too much into that, or will there be a different side showing up this summer?
Dublin fans and Dublin management always say that they don't really take the league that seriously, and on occasions that's been true, but also this year is the only time in Jim Gavin's reign that they haven't reached the final. So I don't know how seriously they take it or not. I think reading into the league, with any other team, not even Dublin, you read too much into it, you're going to get yourself confused for championship. It's going to be a different side, but everyone else is going to have a different side as well. The league is a breeding ground, it's a testing ground for tactics, for players, for management to find out, right, who works where, who do I need to play somewhere else. Dublin, they have the Croker advantage too, but that might cause them a bit of bother later on in the year if they do, as presumably when they breeze through Leinster.
We're talking about not overreacting to the league. You've got to talk about Mayo there, of course. Won in the dramatic final. Mayo for Sam. That's gonna start being a thing now this year. Whereas it's not even sure that they're even going to get out of Connacht, which has been a struggle in recent years. But could this be would the league win at least give them the respect of calling them the favourites to be challengers to Dublin's crown?
Favourites to be challengers, probably. Kerry have a very good chance with that as well. But Mayo this year, after the disaster last year, the whole Newbridge or nowhere fiasco, obviously they went out Connacht early and then beaten in the qualifiers to Kildare in a fiasco. But they're now the return of James Horan, and particularly the return of these young lads. This is how Horan got them into this position where they are All-Ireland contenders. Before Horan came in the first time, you wouldn't have said Mayo in a month of Sundays would get through to any All-Ireland, even the semi-final. He turned them into contenders. Now he's back again. He's brought in the likes of Matthew Ryan, Darragh Cohen. There's a couple of other young lads coming through as well. So maybe not this year. They will be. Don't get me wrong. They will be up there. I don't know if they'll win it. I hope they do, because it is one, like I said many times, they have too good a team. There's too many unbelievable football players to not go out with an All-Ireland, at least one All-Ireland. They're definitely the top contender. Kerry are up there as well, though. Yeah, so
the chasing pack, right? We're looking at Kerry. We're looking at last year's All-Ireland finalists. Of course, had a Tyrone had a decent league campaign as well. You've got Galway there or thereabouts as well. You're going to be Connacht is far from sewn up for Mayo as well. It's not a foregone conclusion these days. Are those the realistic contenders? Or does the draw kind of tip our hat to someone? I remember we spoke about Leinster even being competitive for Dublin for the first time in years. So are those the realistic contenders, or is there someone that could sneak up on us? It's particularly in Ulster as well. You always get someone kind of peaking at the right time in Ulster and maybe causing an upset or two.
I think Kerry definitely in there. Tyrone, I think we're lucky to get the All-Ireland final last year. They've got a nasty draw in Ulster as well. Galway, here's where I'm at with Galway. They won't win the All-Ireland, but that does not mean they can throw a spanner in the works for whoever does. Particularly if they get to the Super 8s. For me, there's a couple of outsiders that are definitely worth a watch. One from Ulster, one from Leinster. From Ulster, Monaghan. I said it, you might read too much into the league, but you can't read too much into the championship. Last year, Monaghan had their best year. They're perennial semi-finalists now, and they're just a little bit of a step behind. But over the winter, they recruited well, and over the summer as well in the league, they're starting to put in these performances. Getting the win over Dublin was massive. And then in Leinster, it is the case that the rising ship or the grey ship has brought the tide up. The rest of Leinster are now coming up on Dublin's level. Biggest one for them is Meath. Got to the Division 2 final. Andy McEntee's third year in charge. He was kind of under pressure to kind of deliver something. They still have to go the long way to get to the Leinster final. They couldn't even get upset by Offaly in the prelims. They're out at first for Leinster in a couple of weeks. But if they get past, you got the likes of Carlow there as well, Westmeath, Wexford, all these teams who kind of could do it on the day if they can get it at home. So obviously the Leinster final's got to be in Croker. That's where Dublin play best. But into the Super 8s, into the qualifiers, Meath and Monaghan are definitely two very dangerous sides worth a look.
The fact that Dublin Meath again could be an interesting competitive game, it's great to see. So fingers crossed that we do get that at least. But who knows as well? If we don't, we're getting a run from some outsider as well. So that's exciting. So win-win either way. The Super 8s, we spoke about it there. They get a second run out after last year's inaugural run. Kind of disappointed a lot of people. Now we're a bit more used to it. It's a bit more normal, and there's more contending as we spoke of. Do you think this is the year we'll see that it was the right decision, or do you think the traditionalists are going to be proved correct again?
No, I think this year we're going to get it because it's almost like the opposite of the hurling championship reform last season, where the year before, obviously last year's hurling championship, the proposals were agreed to bring in the round robin. I was like, oh, it's going to be terrible, it's going to be terrible, and then it was unbelievable to start. So now the hurling has a standard to live up to this year, which I don't think it will be able to. On the football on the other side, last year it was like, oh, Super 8 they were a bit crap, weren't they? But now, as you mentioned, lots more teams that could get into it as a run. Obviously, you got your 4 provincial champions, and you like at the end of the day, sport is best when the big teams play each other, when the best teams play each other. You get that with the Super 8s. Whereas if you're looking at the old style with the knockout, you might get Dublin and Meath once in the championship, whereas now you can get it 2 or 3 times if the Super 8s fall right, or even the likes of Mayo Kerry, Donegal against Galway, someone like that. You can get them games 2 or 3 times, as opposed to the once knockout in the championship. Right, you're knocked out of provincials, you're knocked out of the qualifiers, you're gone. So Super 8 for me, I think it's going to be better than last year. Whether it's still, I don't think it'll be perfect, but it's going to be an improvement, hopefully.
This is the thing, like, we love the round robin in hurling, and we're like, this is great, this is exactly what it should be, but they do the same in football, and people are like, this is a joke, they're making a mockery of the sport, and it's like, it's the same thing, guys. It's just later in the round. You just don't get your bank holiday quarterfinals, which you got used to, but it's the same thing, and it can work just the same. It's not the format's problem, it's the competition's problem at the end of the day. So let's talk hurling then. It gets underway next week as Limerick followed up in their All-Ireland glory with just one loss en route to an Alliance League win. Do you think they're odds on to go back-to-back, or do you think that, like, with Munster in the hurling, you can never consider one team the alpha dog? We're used to Leinster kind of having an alpha dog, but with Munster, even the best team in the country is not a sure thing to win, especially now with this new round-robin format.
I'm going to tell you now that even, like, I cannot confidently predict any All-Ireland winner. I can't predict any confident provincial winner. I don't think Limerick, it's very, very difficult to retain in All-Ireland. Even that best Galway, that Galway side that had Canning on fire, the Burks and Coonies, they weren't able to do it last year. They got it and they just ran out of steam. There's too many big teams. Like, you're playing these matches in the round robin early. Limerick have the benefit of a week off ahead of the rest of the Munster side. They start in round 2 of the round robin, so they'll be able to judge, they'll be able to look at the likes of your Cork, Tipperary, Waterford, Clare, they'll be able to look at the rest of them and judge how they're going to play. But then, like, you look at the fixtures, they start at home to Cork in round 2 and they're away to Waterford then in round 3. Waterford are back in Walsh Park, which is a huge thing for them because they haven't played a home game in the championship. It's like Galway hurlers as well. Galway, of course, moved to Leinster. They weren't able to play in Salt Hill up until 2 years ago. Waterford weren't able to play in Waterford up until this year. So now they're back home in Waterford as well. Like a tricky, horrible, small little ground. It's like John Premier League footballers always talk about Goodison Park, how the dressing rooms are so tight and you can hear the crowd. That's Walsh Park. So, like, if Limerick don't beat Cork and then there's somebody there behind in Waterford, if you lose 2 games in the round robin, your championship is done essentially. So, I don't know if they'll be able to. I can't confidently say they can't. I can't confidently say they will. Like, they're joint favourites at the moment with Galway. Cork, surprisingly, are second favourites. Tipperary are in there as well. So, like, it's the same old hurling championship. It's unpredictable, and that's why I absolutely love it.
Yeah, and that's why we're happy with the round robin, because we're just like, give us more of this, give us more, like, big matchups as well, whereas the Super 8s, obviously, as we spoke about earlier on, we're less hesitant because of the less competition. We kick off in Leinster with an absolute belter of maybe past versus futures. Brian Cody's Kilkenny always deserve to be noted in any championship preview against the Dublin side who ran Limerick close in the league and won their division. Is that winner take all in Leinster, or you also have to factor in beating finalist Galway, kind of going under the radar because we're like, well, that era's over because they couldn't do back to back. Bit unfair on them, so they're going to have a say in it as well. Who do you see as kind of in the early stages, who do you see as the alpha dog in Leinster? Who's peaking at the right time?
I don't think people are writing off Galway just because of the All-Ireland. I think people are writing off Galway because Joe Canning is out in the Leinster Championship at least. Noel Cooney's out in the Leinster Championship at least. Donny Burke is out in the Leinster Championship at least. 3 of their best players. So they're a wounded animal more so than like to be written off completely. Kilkenny and Dublin on the opening day is a belter because you've always got the question about Cody's Cats. They're always like thereabouts, even if they could, like, even if they lost 15 players, they lost a starting 15 from last year, there's still another production line ready to come. So they're always in the question. Dublin, absolutely brilliantly campaign. The difference between the football and hurling leagues is that you can read into the hurling leagues because you can see form, you can see who they're going to come up against in the championship. Dublin are going to come up against who they play in the league. They're going to come, whereas in the football, like, Dublin are going to come up against Kerry in the football championship. They're going to come up against Carlow and the likes of Galway in the Leinster Championship in hurling. So they brilliant win over Tipperary in the semi. I think that might have been their set time. That was a target for this year. And their team in transition, Matty Kenny's in there. I think if you offered him an All-Ireland quarter-final right now, he'd snap your hand off. In terms of like Kilkenny, you can't write him off. Galway, you can't write him off. Dublin probably can. Wexford are the dark horse and Leicester for me, and that's exactly how Davy Fitz will want it.
Right.
Team of very talented hurlers, absolute genius in charge of them. Underdogs, if you look back at Davy Fitz's most successful teams, like Clare when the All-Ireland in 2013, they were the underdogs. No one expected them to come from anywhere. Davy will love that people aren't talking about Wexford. If I had to go, I'd go probably Galway topping it. I'd go Kilkenny a second, maybe Wexford, and then an absolute dogfight for third. Even Carlo drew with Galway in the league, and obviously tested Dublin as well. So it's and as for Munster, I mean, Munster, you've got like the same 6 teams, the same 6 All-Ireland contenders that you could easily say any of them could win it. Yeah. And that's like on the same day as Kilkenny, Dublin, you got the opening of Munster, so you got Wexford, Clare, Cork, Tipperary. Cork, Tipperary is an All-Ireland final any other year. Clare, Waterford is an All-Ireland semi-final any other year. We're getting that on the opening weekend. I cannot wait.
It's going to be great, but I know you'll be comfortable doing this. I'm going to ask you to stick your neck out on the line here. Call it now, and we will remember. We're going to play this clip back to you all season long. Call it now. 2 All-Ireland finals, 2 winners. Okay, I'm going to start with a pretty big shock in the football. I'm going to say Dublin go out in the Super 8s. Whoa!
And the reason for that is that they're in with the Connacht champions, who are going to be Mayo in my view. They're going to be in with the winner of the qualifier match involving the Ulster beaten finalists. So that's going to be one of Donegal, Tyrone, Monaghan or Derry, 4 dangerous teams. And the winner of the qualifier round 4 match involving the Munster beaten finalists, who admittedly it's going to be Cork or Tipperary, not that strong, which means that there's one of these bolters that I was talking about who could be, and it could get drawn against Cork or Tipperary. They could beat them in the qualifiers, and suddenly, like say that's Tyrone, for example, suddenly Dublin are in with Mayo, Tyrone and Monaghan in their groups. On the other side, Munster Ulster champions, it's going to be Kerry, and for me, Donegal. And Connacht beaten finalists, likely Galway, and Leicester beaten finalists, possibly Meath as well, coming again. But my final in the football is Kerry against Mayo.
Oh, yes.
And I think Kerry sit back and top. I think Kerry become the kingdom again. Sorry, Chris Morley.
It'd be hilarious, I have to say, because everyone's like, it's all opening up for Mayo. Everything's coming up Mayo. Oh, we lost that match that we won just a few months ago in the same stadium. Oh, I don't know. I don't see Dublin going out in the Super 8s. I think you've kind of jumped a bit too far ahead. I can see Dublin losing a game in the Super 8s, and I think that's enough of a shock. Like, do I see them losing 2 games? No. I just can't. Like, they're going for their 5th in a row, and they always pull it together. Even when they don't play well, they know how to win in the championship. I don't know. Could I see them not in the final? Maybe. But I think going out the Super 8s, that's a ballsy call. Would you put money on that?
If someone will give me odds.
Yeah, I don't know. All right, okay.
I wouldn't put too much money on it, but just... teams don't do 5 in a row. There was a reason that Kerry were not able to do it. Like, Kerry against Offaly in the 80s was the opportunity. Like, Kerry against Offaly, you would have gone, okay, Kerry are definitely going to win that. Even Kilkenny, the most recent team to try it in the hurling, Kilkenny got to the final and was like, okay, this is it. This is going to be it. And then Tipperary came out and absolutely blew them to smithereens when no one expected them to. So maybe it is a case that they get to the final against someone like, I don't know, Limerick. And suddenly Limerick stopped the drive for 5.
Yeah.
But I think they're going to be in, like, even being in nailed on with Mayo in the Super 8. That's a game that they could easily lose in poker, and then they could have to go to Clones to get something, and that's never easy for any team. Like, so I can see it happen. If someone gives me odds, I'll put a 5 on it.
It's a different question, though. Will they get the drive for 5, or will they go out in the Super 8s? Very different question. I don't know. I can't see it personally, but who knows? Maybe you look like a genius come August. Now, hurling, what do you think? Go on, put your neck on the line.
Oh God, okay. Right. Coming from Leinster, Galway.
Okay.
Coming from Munster. Oh, I don't like predicting Cork to do anything because it usually backfires. Tipperary. Okay. Tipperary.
Okay, interesting.
And if that's the case, then Tipperary will win the All-Ireland.
Right, interesting. Okay, so we should keep an eye on that
But
as the summer goes on.
That could literally be any team, any of the six against any of the six.
Hit and hope there. Right, so that's what's coming up over the summer. Dave, what are you going to be keeping an eye on in the GAA this weekend?
This weekend, it's the GAA Championship, obviously starting everything off as it always does. But you're looking at it and you're like, okay, Mayo against New York, that's going to be easy enough. That's an easy enough win for Mayo. But Galway against London, easy, yeah? No, because London are improving massively. They got promoted in the league. They've obviously got to a Connacht final this decade as well. They got to obviously it's 2011, but it's different. Galway were patchy enough in the league. Yes, they were able to pick up a win over. I think they performed well against Dublin as well. Croker, they got a couple of wins in their bag. But London are different this year because they've actually got a link up with other London sports. So they're using QPR training facilities. They've got aid from London Irish. They've got aid from Saracens. They've got aid from Harry Redknapp. Harry Redknapp's to give him motivational talks. He's got Owen Mulligan, 3-time All-Ireland winner with Tyrone, on the backroom staff there. He's going to be able to do it. And it's in Ruislip as well. If it was in Salt Hill, I'd say, all right, Galway got to blow them out of the water. Ruislip is different, and teams have been caught out there over the years for underestimating them. I'm not going to say they're going to win, but wait for the handicap to be set. It's definitely worth a shot. If it's anywhere between 8 or 10 points, go for that.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, that's an interesting one to keep an eye out on. Like I love an early championship upset, and that'd be absolutely fantastic way to set the palette for the summer. So we shall see. We're going to talk about football from here on out in the show. So we are going to get underway the last monthly prediction league for Paddy's New Yacht of the season, guys. If you haven't played so far, don't worry. You can still join in, and you can win our monthly prize of Low Blows VOD. All you have to do is get onto Paddy's New Yacht Twitter, at Paddy's New Yacht, all one word, and all you have to do is quote tweet the tweet we're going to put up later tonight on Thursday evening with the fixtures for this weekend's Premier League action. You have to give us your correct score predictions for each game and give us an anytime goal scorer. If you get the correct outcome, you get 1 point. If you get the correct score, you get 3 points on top of that, and if your anytime goal scorer scores, you get 2 points, so a potential 6 from each game. We wanted to play along, but it's not fair if we come in and we win every week. So what we do is we handicap ourselves, and we have to do our picks now. We record early on Thursday morning, and as soon as the words come out of our mouths, our picks are locked in. Worked out all right for us earlier in the season, but it's kind of fading away towards the end, I think. Kento, you're last among the people that are still kind of playing every single week in the league, and I finished April last in the monthly prediction league, so it's been rough for us. The handicap really working against us. Let's see if we can turn things around in the final month. We start because Sky is looking, it's the last full weekend. Next week is the last weekend, and everything takes place Sunday 3 p.m. as per normal. So it's the last full weekend. Sky are using every available television slot that they can. So it gets kicked off on Friday night with Everton against Burnley. It's the battle of the side who are desperately chasing 7th versus the side who know all too well that finishing 7th isn't all it's cracked up to be. Everton's chances at that last possible Europa League spot took a blow when they failed to beat Palace last week, leaving them 4 points off Spurs. But it's an excuse to keep interested on what has been a strong finish to the season for them. Sean Dyche's men will also want to finish strong after an off-rocky season, so this could be a fun Friday night football, last Friday night football of the year. I'm going to lean towards Everton here because they've got more to play for and they just love being on TV and always seem to raise their game when they know everyone's watching. I'm going to pick them to win 3-1 with a Richarlison score.
Don't get me wrong, I love a good claret, but at the end of the day, it's just a colour. And Everton are sticky toffees. Has anyone ever seen a claret toffee? They might hear 1-1 Chris Wood.
Okay, fair enough. Moving on to the Saturday early game, Bournemouth against Spurs and David Kent. For the last time in the season, we have one golden rule here on Paddy's New Yacht when it comes to the early. What is that? On 3, 2, 1, let's finish strong. Don't bet on the early. Yeah, Jesus. And Spurs only went to prove last week why you should never bet on the early. Even when I felt safe enough to break our golden rule and throw it into my acca, they inexplicably lost a crucial game to West Ham, their first loss in the new stadium. So I'm staying away from this one. And not just because it's the early. Spurs have been absolutely rotten away from home lately, losing their last 5 dating back to that Burnley shocker a few months ago. They'll still be missing Harry Kane here, and they may rest players ahead of their second leg with Ajax next week. Of course, that is still very much to play for, going down just 1-0. You wouldn't say the Bournemouth have signed off for the season, though, given their 3-3 draw with Southampton last week and their recent 5-0 win over Brighton. So this could be trickier than it looks for Spurs. That 4-point cushion for Champions League spots also only looks safe because there's 2 games left and the other challengers have forgotten how to win also. So, in theory, Spurs can afford a slip here. Luckily, because I think it's happening, but as a draw, not a loss. I think it's going to finish 1-1. I think Callum Wilson's going to score.
Yeah, see, that's good logic, but, Spurs are those annoying things you see on cowboy boots, very sharp and prickly, and although cherries are delicious, especially those belong to Stupid Sexy Eddie Howe, they can be punctured quite easily. So give me a 3-0 win for Spurs, Lucas Moura.
Bournemouth may not have clocked off for the season, but Kento has. 3 p.m. games, these are bet safe, starting with West Ham against Southampton. West Ham's shocker over Spurs last week put a slightly different spin on their recent form. They've had a nightmare run of fixtures lately, including losses to City, Everton, Chelsea and United, but they seem to be playing their way into form. And a draw against Leicester followed by that win over Spurs is nothing to sneeze at. They're potentially ones to watch next season. And I've gone on the record to say that Southampton are ones to watch next season, but that's for them. Last week's draw with Bournemouth secured their safety, and I think they need to deflate after what's been an insane few weeks for them. The consistent thread in their games have been goals. They can score, but teams can also score on them. So I'm picking West Ham 3-1 here with Mikel Antonio to continue his recent run of goals.
Can Saints be hammered enough into submission? I feel there might be some sort of heavenly thing that could prevent them from such a weird defeat like that. Mainly an Irish angel up front parting defences like Moses did the Red Sea. The Hammers are particularly brutal at home, but like a lot of other different kind of hammer, misfire more often than not, often end up striking their own thumbs. So give me 2-1 with Shane Long.
To Southampton?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. All right.
It's the end of the season. Weird shit happens.
Yeah, no, honestly, that wouldn't even be that weird. West Ham haven't been great. They've got a couple of decent results, so I could totally see that happening. Wolves against Fulham. 2 promoted sides meet towards the end of very different campaigns. The 7th-place Wolves have Europe possibly staring them down the barrel, while Fulham have a return to Championship football. It's the best of the rest versus the best of, frankly, nothing. 2 sides who've invested heavily in the future. One side where it actually paid off. The thing is, though, the Fulham have more to play for here. Those investments haven't worked out, so those players will need to be sold and will want to find Premier League homes if possible. Maybe at Wolves, who knows? Then there's that old stat about how Wolves are better against the top 6 than the bottom. I think Wolves will see their big finale send-off for the season on a high next week against Liverpool. So I'm actually picking Fulham to catch them here at 1-0. Ryan Babel to score.
And we got a cottager heading to the backyard of a wolf, which is a weird reverse Red Riding Hood. Would have been a lot more easy to judge if he was going Fulham were in full relegation mode, but now they're higher in the form table than half the league. But they're not above Wolves, though. And Wolves have teeth. They'll huff, they'll puff, and they'll blow Fulham's house away. 3-0, Hotta.
Can't really argue with that either, but again, just Wolves against those bottom 6. They've lost my faith. They've lost my confidence. Cardiff against Palace, the evening game on Saturday. Sky get Cardiff on the box because secretly they hope having to avoid a screening headache next weekend as the title race and top 4 are still wide open and they only have 15 different channels to show it all on. The setup here is simple. If Cardiff don't win, they're down here. However, that was also the potential setup for last week in a much more winnable game against Fulham, and guess what? They lost, making that 8 losses out of 10 where they failed to score in 5 of them. I think Neil Warnock's men have just run out of gas here. As for Palace, we've covered many times that their away form is exemplary. Only Man City have a better away record this year. Bad news for Cardiff. I think it's going to be tight, and that will give Cardiff, I'll give Cardiff the respect in that. But I think Sky will breathe a sigh of relief here, and they'll lose here, getting a lot of dramatic shots of children crying in the crowd, of sad Welsh children they're going to see. 1-0 to Palace with Milivojevic to score. Cardiff have conceded 7 penalties this season, while Palace have been given more than any other side away from home this season. So that's a really interesting shout if you want to consider throwing it in your racket.
Yeah, I mean, who would you rather take in a fight in nature, a bluebird or an eagle?
I'm going to go with the eagle, yeah.
Yeah, fatal kill coming for the home side, but I'm going to say it's a draw as well. 1-0 Milivojevic.
Okay, interesting. Newcastle against Liverpool. This feels ominous. Liverpool have to pick themselves up after a deflating 3-0 loss to Barcelona that couldn't but knock their confidence. Again, you're looking at the stats, and the thing was, they probably were the better side, but they couldn't do anything. That's worse for a team. That's worse for your confidence, where you are the better team and you still end up getting trounced by sheer class. So they're going to have to try send things into the final day, and who's waiting for them? The old gaffer, Rafa Benitez. How heartbreaking would it be if Rafa was to deny Liverpool their best chance at a Premier League ever, and the indignity of not even being able to make it to the final day as challengers when everyone sees that as a foregone conclusion. The loss to Barcelona at least makes for less of a selection headache for Jurgen Klopp, as there's no point resting players here for a possibly insurmountable task in the second leg, so we will get Poole at full strength here and determined, but also tired. And also deflated. How often do we see it? A team just has that one loss or has that one knock where it's like, after playing so well for so long, and it just fucks up everything. And how could they not be, in truth? Like, I'd sympathise with them if they were. They've played so well for so long, and it just seems to be coming apart at the end. Also, Newcastle, sneakily strong at home. They'll be looking to make it 7 wins out of 8 here at St James's Park. Run that includes that win over Man City. Man City's only dropped points of 2019. I don't think Newcastle are winning here, but I do think they're drawing. I think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to finish 2-2, and I'm going to predict Man 8 score.
I like that call, but how the hell do I call this one? Like, Reds is a slang term, it's dodgy enough, whereas Magpies love attacking shiny things, and it's a pretty shiny trophy that Liverpool are heading towards there at the top of the Premier League. Be a shame if someone shot on it. Nah, Reds have Spears. 2-1 Salah, just.
Oh, interesting. Chelsea against Watford, moving on to the Sunday 2 p.m. games. This top 4 race isn't so much a case of who wants it, lads, then seriously, does anyone want this? Like, it's spare. Like, I don't mind if you have it. I'm not going to eat it, so if you want it, it's there. Since the 20th of April, Spurs, Chelsea, Arsenal and Man United have picked up a total of 6 points from an available 33, with Spurs' win over Brighton being the sole win of the collective. This Sunday, the 4th to 6th place sides all face winnable games, where one of them absolutely has to eat their vegetables and play in the Champions League next season, whether they want to or not. It's good for you, lads. Chelsea hold 4th spot off the back of not being embarrassing. At least they've just drawn 2 of their last games, including away to Man United, and their loss to Liverpool was their only loss in April, so they haven't at least disgraced themselves, which is the best we can ask for of these sides. In Watford, they face a side we've covered already this season, who tend to roll over for top 6 sides. Since beating Spurs at the start of last September, they haven't picked up a point from any of the other top 6, and they've got the FA Cup final to focus on anyway, so I think Chelsea will handle their business with a 2-1 win here. Higuain to score, why not?
Well, Chelsea are more commonly known as the Blues. They're also nicknamed the Pensioners, which explains some of the slightly racist stuff their fans have done over the last couple of years. Watford are Hornets, on the other hand, and Hornets are horrible little feckers who will annoy you and keep coming back at you just when you think you've got them beaten. However, Pensioners are usually accompanied by one thing: a newspaper. Rolled up and swung ferociously, they should be able to get the job done. 2-0 Hazard.
What a damning indictment of your customers there. You just call all your customers old, essentially. Huddersfield against Man United, the other 2 p.m. game on Sunday. Man United finally get the soft landing they were waiting for after things unravelled much worse than anyone could have imagined in that ominous April fixture list. In the first half against Chelsea, they looked like the OGS United of January and February before fading after Chelsea's equaliser. To beat Huddersfield this season, though, you don't need to channel the spirit of January. Generally, you just need to show up and be there, pass, go, and collect your 3 points. I think United will finish strong, starting with a 3-0 win. Lukaku to score.
Yeah, Ole Yeller takes his Red Devils to the Dogs Trust, where he finds a group of feckless, lazy terriers just waiting to end the season so they can get a new owner on a more suitable ground. Solskjaer's side have been poor for weeks, and not really been Red Devils as much as delightfully devilish Seymour style. Everyone, any Simpsons fans know that reference. But not even Jesus himself could prevent 3 points from him here. 3-0 Lukaku.
Okay, last but not least on Sunday, Arsenal against Brighton, and Arsenal, meanwhile, have been a fucking shambles. One of my massive pet peeves is managers playing for trophies while letting the league rot, while they're perfectly capable of going for both. And 3 losses on the back of Palace, Wolves, and Leicester, where they've conceded 3 in each, should not be forgotten by the fans, even if they get a big day out for the Europa League final. I find that absolutely disgraceful. I don't mind if, say, a Watford or a Wolves team who have nothing else to play for check out of the league later on. That's fine. But when you have top 4 and when you're perfectly capable of still putting in performances but choose not to, that is unforgivable for me, where you just put all your eggs in the trophy basket so you can play shit but still get to turn around to the fans and be like, look, I got a shiny thing. Really annoying. What a crappy way to finish what looked to be such a positive season for Unai Emery, where the shackles of the later Wenger years seem to have been removed. I'd be absolutely pissed if I was an Arsenal fan right now. Fortunately, they're playing a Brighton side who just seem incapable of taking their fate into their own hands. But if Palace beat Cardiff, they may not even have anything to play for here. Since beating Palace in early March, Brighton have accumulated a total of 2 points and scored a single goal, that was last week, in their survival bid. This is miserable stuff, and you could happily do something else while this match is on, because these two sides frankly don't deserve your attention. I'm picking Arsenal to win 2-0 with Aubameyang to score, but that's just by default.
Who wins in a fight, a gutter or a bird? Well, seagulls are notoriously quick, have an eye for ruining people's day and by stealing their sandwiches or generally being arseholes. But if they stay still long enough, they'll be blown to bits. 4-0 Aubameyang.
Last but not least, Man City against Leicester, the last Monday Night Football of the year. This could be City playing for the title if things go south for Liverpool on Saturday. And I think we all want that dramatic last day, so let's hope that it's not. As perfect as it would be if Rafa was the one to ruin Liverpool's title chase. And then Leicester City face the form side in the division outside of the 2 title challengers. So even if Liverpool do slip up, it's not a foregone conclusion. They're fresh off a hugely impressive 3-0 win over Arsenal. With Brendan Rodgers, you have to believe as well, he's going to be hungry to make another statement that his side will make it the top 6 into a bona fide top 7 next year. It is no rollover, like I said, for City, who handled this run-in professionally, if not spectacularly, not winning a game by more than 2 goals since their 6-0 win over Chelsea way back. But they also haven't dropped a point in the league in 2019, save for the aforementioned 2-1 loss to Newcastle. So there's that too. I like the sound of 2-1. I like City to win. I like Sterling to score.
Foxes are cunning, they're smart, they're wily, they're quick. Citizens, depending on who you talk to, or what kind you talk to, dangerous. And these citizens have an AKDB 47. And it's hunting season. They'll just about catch their prey. Give me 2-1 City with Vardy scoring for Leicester.
Okay, interesting. Trying to put that into an ACA as well. It's the end of the season. We're playing with house money. We've won the season, so we're just hitting and hoping at this stage. My ACA is a treble with 54-1 odds. So, but I like it at the same time. West Ham to score more than 1.5 goals. I'm taking the over on that. Just West Ham, not both teams to score. Fulham to win against Wolves. Just betting on the Wolves bottom 6 record. And Milivojevic to score. I'm betting on on Cardiff giving away a lot of penalties, Palace getting a lot of penalties. 54-1 for that treble is good odds.
It's not undoable.
And it makes your weekend interesting. So we will move on to the European football this weekend. And the European football season, it's also pretty much over with Barcelona, PSG and Juve having all wrapped up their titles. So if you're desperate for wanting something to pay attention to, in La Liga, like we said for the past few weeks, the race for fourth between Getafe and Sevilla continues, with Getafe edging into fourth and the 2 locked on points, with Valencia just 3 points behind lurking. All 3 had a chance last week to consolidate fourth spot. All 3 lost. Sevilla play Leganes on Friday night. Getafe play Girona Sunday morning. On Saturday night, though, was the pick of the week for me in Spain. Celta Vigo, who you may remember, seemed rejuvenated with the return of star Iago Aspas, have stalled a bit with 2 draws in 2 games and like just 2 points from safety. Their treats for their recent form. New champions Barcelona come to town. So that relegation race may get interesting again soon. In Serie A, pushing Getafe for Champions League surprise package of the season, though, are both Atalanta and Torino. Torino's 2-0 win over Milan last week, which we tipped you off about, saw the Rossoneri fall from 4th to 7th and out of the European places altogether. Torino's reward for that win? They have to host champions Juventus in the Derby della Mole on Friday
Come
night
on.
to keep their Champions League alive. Lads, it's not getting any easier. Atalanta have a similarly tricky assignment away to 8th place Lazio, who are still within touching distance of the Champions League on Sunday afternoon. But a Lazio win could directly benefit Claudio Ranieri's Roma. Of course, they're arch rivals. 1 point behind Atalanta in 4th, who play Genoa on Sunday evening. Milan, meanwhile, hope to do a Cersei on it and come from a hopeless position to pick the bones when the Great War is done. They host 14th place Bologna on Monday night, and if results go their way, they could nab 4th place back with a win there as the other teams face the army of the dead. But even if all the European titles seem wrapped up, we always have the Bundesliga. Last week I said if Dortmund and Bayern didn't win their easy games, someone might get sacked. Well, neither did. Dortmund imploded after going 1-0 up to local rivals Schalke in the Riviera Derby, going down to 9 men and losing 4-2. That set the scene for Bayern to effectively wrap up the title by beating 17th place Nuremberg and opening up a 4-point gap with 3 weeks to go. They went down 1-0 and they needed a Serge Gnabry goal late on to save a point. You couldn't make this up, lads. There are no reasons for those results except drama. So it's still all to play for. 2 points in it and 1 loss could still be decisive. Bayern go from facing second bottom away to facing bottom side Hanover at home on Saturday afternoon. Dortmund have a much trickier task that evening as they must now navigate the key suspensions from the last game and travel to Werder Bremen. Let's call a spade though. This isn't ending until the last day because the fixture list gets tasty from here to the finish line. Because you say Bayern, right, they failed to beat second last, but they play last at home. It seems easy from here, right? Wrong. Their last 2 games are against the other 2 sides outside of Dortmund, currently occupying the Champions League spots. But we will deal with all that as it comes. Bundesliga is box office this season. It is indeed a great league. However, the one thing it is not, the one thing I cannot say about the Bundesliga this year is that it is not the greatest league in the world. That is, of course, the LOI. And what's going on there, Dave?
Now, I'm not saying the two were linked, but approximately 3 minutes or so after Keith Cowan equalised for Spin Harps away to Cork City on Monday night, there was an earthquake in Ballybofey. Ballybofey, small enough population. Not many people were at the Turner's Cross. It was a Monday, so, a lot of jumping up and down. I'm not saying it happened. Also, lovely story from the First Division. 18 years ago, 2001, part of a local charity drive, a full set of kits, scarves, football boots and money was sent from Longford Town to Kampala in Uganda. Last Friday, they received a letter from the group of street kids who received the jerseys, 2 of which are now planning a trip to Flanker Park later this season. Great story. Best of the week in terms of fixtures this week, it's Bows, who are yet to concede a goal from open play and sit 4 points off top, hosting the new manager Bounce in Cork City, who sacked John Caulfield earlier this week. They could slip into a relegation playoff with defeat, but now they've nothing left to lose because they've got a new manager coming in at the end of the season, so players are open enough. It's going to be interesting to see how they react to the news because Caulfield bit the bullet for them, as the case may be, because they've been playing awful. So if they come out and win 4-0 now, we'll know it was Caulfield that was the problem. If they come out and play the exact same way, they may have made a mistake.
I didn't want to bring it up. I know it's been an emotional, rough week for you. I was wondering if you were going to talk about it. Are you okay with all that?
It was the right time. I think, 8 games without a win and sitting 7th in the table. Yes, John Caulfield took us to the double in 2017, but for a club the size of Cork City and for a club as successful and that drive for success as Cork City, we're 14 games in, we're 7th. We needed someone else to try and turn that around. I don't think Caulfield could have turned that around personally. I think he's had a particularly tricky personal start to the season as well. He lost a couple of family members at the start as well, so I don't know if his head was still in it. The right time, the right decision made by the Forest board, and Caulfield classy as always in an open letter to the City fans there on Wednesday. So listen, he holds every record in City history as a player. He is our most successful manager of all time. Yes, his legacy may have been tarnished by the start of this season, but he will always be respected and he will always be welcome at Turner's Cross, and absolutely rightfully so.
It sounds like it's the right decision, especially with all that personal stuff going on. It sounds like it's probably best for all parties. So at least the split came amicably after all they've gone through together. So anyway, that is the LOI. We only have one bit of business to keep on, because as Cork City look to save their season, they still have a long way to go. Dave, you do not have that luxury at all. It is the Kent on Kent. Dave, you were 5 down at one stage. You've come back and taken it to within 2, and there's ominously 3 Kent on Kents left this season. If you don't know, if you're listening for the first time, towards the end of the season randomly, this is the game where we quiz Kento on stories he's reported throughout the week on buzz.ie. We test his knowledge on his own stories. 3 questions. If he gets 2 or more right, he gets the point for the week, and he saves his season. If you don't get 2, Dave, it's all over.
It's gone, yeah.
And interesting twist this week. I'm making them a little bit harder, but there's still 2 things, 2 stories that you've reported on, and 2 bits of information that have been in stories you've reported, and one story you should know about as well. So you have a good chance of made it fair, but we shall see.
That could be, that hints to me that there might be a question surrounding John Caulfield in here.
We shall see. Question 1. You reported on Schalke's 4-2 win over 9-man Dortmund last week.
Bollocks.
But who were the 2 players that got sent off for Dortmund in that game?
Marco Reus and Marius Wolf. I play with Dortmund in my FIFA career.
Yeah, that's fair enough, but are you sure they were team players who scored or got sent off for you?
No.
Okay,
no,
fair enough.
Absolutely.
Okay, interesting. Question 2. You reported on Norwich sealing their Premier League promotion with a win over Blackburn. But how many points did they get from their first 6 matches of the season? You reported this in your article. I'm not making an abject, ridiculous argument.
Eight
points?
It's low.
Okay.
Single figures, because there was calls for him to be sacked. I'm going to go with 8, but I'm not 100% on that.
Okay.
Fuck.
So what we're going to do here is we're going to take time out and we're going to go through the questions so far. You were correct with Marco Reus and Marius Wolf. You were incorrect with Norwich. It's 5 points, not 8. You're 1 win off.
Damn.
So the
Oh,
season all comes down to this. And earlier on, you were correct, but you don't get a point for it. It's saying that there is a question about John Caulfield. How heartbreaking. It'd be like Liverpool losing the title to Rafa. How heartbreaking would it be if the Kent on Kent was lost on a question about John Caulfield? Dave, I don't mean to do this to you, but the tension is unbearable. So, you reported that John Caulfield has parted ways with Cork City. Who did he start his playing career with in the League of Ireland before Cork?
Athlone Town.
Straight in there.
Absolutely, 100% Athlone Town.
You're playing to save your season.
Yeah.
David Kent, to save your season. Those questions where you're confident and get it wrong. Oh, to save the season and send it into next week where you will have a chance to equalise. Or is it all over here? John Caulfield played for Athlone Town. Congratulations. You won another week.
Do you know how I know?
How?
Because he played for Roscommon in Gaelic football.
Interesting. I was looking at that as well, but I was like, maybe that's a bit too much. So there we go. Kent on Kent, he survives yet another week. Next week, we're playing to equalise, and then after that, if you do, there's only one episode of Paddy's New Yacht where it'll all come down to that. So we shall see how you get on next week. To be honest, I'm going to make it really hard. I'm nervous now. I was fine with you coming back. It was a nice bit of drama, whatever. It makes the show better. Now I want to win. Now the competitive side is kicking in. So
back to the cat question.
We'll see next week. Well, Dave, it's on you. Just report me some stories and we'll see how it goes on. Until
exclusively Cork City stories now for the whole week.
Dave, I'm noticing a trend here. Is there any Oh no, it's just coincidence. It's just a lot going on.
The buzz editor will turn to me and is like, Yeah, okay, we get it. You like Caulfield. Come on, other stuff is happening in the world. No, there isn't. There isn't at all. It's just all League of Ireland.
We shall see next week. Anyway, guys, until then, enjoy the sporting weekend ahead. We will be back. Play the Prediction League on our Twitter at Paddy's New Yacht. New competition, subscription to Low Blows VOD, up for grabs for the winner there, even if you haven't played all season. So, until next week, we're back to recap it all with the last regular season edition of Paddy's New Yacht of the year, breaking down the final day of the Premier League and giving our 10-way ACCA for the end of the season, because fuck it, why not? You never know.
Why not? Yeah.
1 year it's going to happen. Until then, for David Kent, I've been Rick Nash, and this has been Paddy's New Yacht.